Welcome into episode 233 of the Skate Podcast. I'm Brian DeFelice, joined by Bridget Prue and Scott McLaughlin. The Bruins are off to a 6-0 start. They defeat the Chicago Blackhawks for the second time this season already. They beat them 3-0 in Chicago. Bridget and Scott, opening shifts.
Yeah, mine's got to be the goaltending. 23 safe shutout for Jeremy Swayman Tuesday night in Chicago. Him and Linus Ullmark are both 3-0-0 so far this season. Neither one has allowed more than 2 goals in a game. Ullmark hasn't allowed more than 1. He's allowed exactly 1 in all 3 of his starts. It's amazing. Like, they were the best tandem last regular season. Obviously, some questions surfaced with how poorly the playoffs went when they decided to ride Ullmark, and he kind of, whether he broke down or just didn't have a good series, whatever you want to call it. But now they're picking up this regular season right where they left off last regular season. 39 goalies in the NHL have made at least 3 starts so far. They are first and second in save percentage. Ullmark first, Swayman second. So we knew goaltending should still be the strength of the team, would have to be with so much turnover. And so far, they've not only been the strength, they've been by far like the best goalies in the NHL.
Yeah, no, it's impressive again. And to kind of go off what you just said as well, that they're picking off, the goalies are picking right up where they left off last season. Well, the wins are just as they were last season too. They haven't lost yet, and obviously last year setting the single season record for wins. Now they've tied their record for wins, 6 wins to start the season, and a chance to break the record of wins to start the season against Anaheim on Thursday, who they've already beaten, and have proven that that the Ducks just aren't quite the caliber team that the Bruins are. So I think they're going to set the new record for wins to start the season, and maybe even just keep running that up.
So I'm going to say that in a year where it seems to be Connor Bedard's trophy to lose, Matthew Poitras, how can you not talk about him? And 4 points in 6 games. Obviously, we all expect Bedard to more or less run away with the rookie scoring title this year, but it's a very impressive rookie class. You have Matthew Knies, Adam Fantilli, Logan Cooley, Connor Bedard, obviously, as I mentioned, but Matthew Poitras, he's 4th in the Bruins in scoring through 6 games, albeit, but still, 4 points in your first 6 NHL games and looking good doing it and impacting the game. I just think, look, if Connor Bedard wins the Calder, everybody expects it, right? But if Matthew Poitras can be somebody who pushes and is one of those players that's in the conversation, what a steal for the Bruins in last year's draft, or 2021's draft, 2022.
Yeah, no, it was 22. Yeah. Just to pick up there, right now it's Matt Poitras who's the leading goal scorer among rookies. He has 3 in his last 2 games, so 3 on the season now, and no one else has more than 2. So Bedard, Fantilli, Knies, there's a couple other guys. I think it was Marco Rossi and Ty Cartier out in Seattle, all of 2. So yeah, like, he's the one pacing the field right now. And to your point, like, I ultimately think Bedard is going to end up running away with it. If for no other reason than he's just going to get so much more opportunity than Poitras. And by that, I mean, like, minutes. Like, he's already playing 19, 20 minutes a game. That's going to continue all season. If his conditioning holds up, you'll even see him get like some 22, 23-minute nights. And I just think on a team, on a deeper, better team like the Bruins, Poitras probably not going to do that. Right now, he's been around 14, 15. You can maybe see that get up to like 16, 17, but they don't need him to play 20 minutes a night like the Blackhawks do with Bedard, because Bedard is that entire team. Like, they just don't have the depth behind him. So for that reason alone, Bedard will end up with more points and probably win the Calder. But just another impressive game for Poitras. Forces a steal in the D zone. takes it the other way in a breakaway, blows right past Corey Perry, which, obviously Perry at his age doesn't have the foot speed he once did, but still, like that's Corey Perry that you just stole the puck from and blew past for a breakaway goal. And, just his importance to the team. He even got bumped up to the first line at times last night. He currently is tied for the team lead in 5-on-5 goals and 5-on-5 points. It's like he's clearly a difference maker. He's clearly sticking around past the 9 games, and it's a godsend for the Bruins. Like, it's exactly what they needed, and he's delivered so far.
And that was his nicest goal, I think, so far too. Like he has 3, but that one last night, because of the defensive play that he made first, and then just going on a breakaway, he made it look easy too. So on the finish, so that one was probably his prettiest one so far. And to the point about him versus Bedard, Bedard also is going to get more time on the power play. Presuming, Poitras does get time on the power play. Just so far, it's been with the second unit, and has been less time than Zacha has been getting as the top unit center. So that might also chip away a little bit at his, chances to really boost his stats to the level of Bedard by the end of the season. And Bedard is the real deal. We saw him in person play on opening night, and he's the real deal. So it would be surprising if anyone beat him out for the trophy, but I like that Poitras is even in the conversation, and if he can continue to be in the conversation, that means he's playing like one of the best players in the NHL, more than likely, if he remains in that conversation.
Yeah, and again, it's just somebody that nobody ever thought that going into this season. Certainly after last spring's ending, that the Bruins would have a rookie, pushing for potential Calder votes at some point. Now, I get it. It's the first month of the season, but we can only judge based off of what's happened so far. And obviously we don't really see, him slowing down. Obviously there might be some slumps here and there scoring wise, like everybody has, but it's very apparent that he not only can create plays, but now he's showing he can also finish them. And what's interesting like the goal last night against Chicago was clearly the nicest goal he's had. It shows his finesse and speed, and as opposed to the Anaheim game where he's scoring in different ways, which is going to the net, and showing that determination and grit that is also needed to score goals. What stands out to me though is that when I watched that goal last night, and throughout watching him this season, the knock on him as far as like critiquing his game was that skating wasn't his strength or speed wasn't his strength. And he can fool me, because I think it's kind of relative. I feel like nowadays people compare, everybody's skating ability to like, Connor McDavid. It's like, well, not everybody's that. Nobody else is that. Poitras he's not just keeping up at the NHL level. He seems to be a quick NHL skater, a fast NHL skater with breakaway speed. And, I think that's something that people they said the contrary. And so I'm pleasantly surprised to see that. Like David Krejci didn't have that type of breakaway speed that you see last night. So it's people say, oh, he's very Krejci-esque in his vision. He slows the game. He's got some more speed than I think people give him credit for.
Yeah, and they also had said, he's not the tallest and he's not the heaviest, and maybe, that will affect him getting bumped off the puck. But you see him shielding the puck. You see him being able to hold his own against any of the defenders he's gone up against, and he's not a liability in that way either. So he's funny because he acknowledged it when we were talking to him, when Scott and I talked to him the day before the season started. He was like, yeah, I know I'm not the biggest guy. Like that's not my strength, but like, it's not slowing him down at this point, at all. So those things that you hear like, oh, well, he's 19 and he's small and you might not be the fastest. Well, I think the people that were saying that are probably going to stop saying that soon, because his biggest asset is his hockey IQ and how he knows the game and how good his sense is on when to pass and where people are. So he's been showing that the whole time.
Yeah, that was interesting. After the game, Montgomery was asked, as he's been asked a few times about, like, do you see him sticking around? Where are you at on that decision now? And I think he was just trying to play cool and like not, don't hand the kid anything just yet, like before you have to. But he said, he's certainly made it a tough decision. And I feel like it's actually now already swung past that, where he's now made it an easy decision. Like, to the point where, like, I almost don't even think there's a decision to be made. It's like, clearly he's sticking around. Clearly he helps your team. He's proven that he's ready. He's proven that he can handle it. And, look, at some point there's going to be some bumps. Like, no, game 40 or 50 in January or February. Like, yeah, I'm sure he's going to have a tough stretch at some point. But everything is there, and like he's clearly ready. So I think you're past the point now of worrying about like, oh, is he going to wear it down? Are there more things he has to work on in juniors? It's like, yeah, there's going to be stuff he has to work on. There's going to be times where he's probably a little tired, but he can work through that here. Like, in the meantime, let him help you win games, because that's what he's doing. So, yeah, I don't see any tough decision really looming.
I mean, if they send him down, that'd be like that'd be just universally disagreed with by fans and by reporters and everything.
There's no way.
No,
there's no way. But yeah, I mean, I just think that I mean, everybody has things to work on. Like if I can't stand when people, as it pertains to prospects, especially who have shown that they deserve an opportunity, it's annoying when people are like, well, there's still things that they could work on with their game before they get to the NHL. It's like, name me an NHL product that's or NHL player that's a completely perfect product. It's I mean, again, you can sit there and say if you want Connor McDavid, but I'm sure you can even find things with his game. I don't know, but I'm not going to be the one to try to do that. But my point is, like, I mean, David Pasternak's been in the league for 10 years, and he's one of the best players in the world. We all know that he turns the puck over. So it's like what are we doing here? And the Bruins gave him an opportunity 10 years ago, and yeah, it's like it's silly to think that way. I feel like if a player's shown that they're ready to take that next step and that the lower levels are no longer helpful for them, like we talked about a month ago, it's like there's something to be said about learning how to play hockey at the NHL level with the NHL pace of play. That's more valuable than going down to put on a few pounds of size. And Poitras is the prime example. Now, not every player takes the opportunity that he's had and runs with it, but he has. And there were a lot of people that were, not a lot, but there were some people that were after training camp saying, good camp, maybe we should still send him down though. Or like, just because they want to get him another year in juniors. Like, why? He was the best player in camp. The team needs the help, and he's ready. So I'm glad that it's kind of worked out the way that it has.
How are we liking the chemistry there that he's had with that line with the Brusque?
I mean, on Sunday it was awesome. That was their best line. I think Tuesday it was a little quieter, and they weren't alone in that. I think the whole team got off to a little bit of a slower start, and then you start to see the Bruins take over in the second and third period, the second period especially. Part of that was, Montgomery did shake it up again. He put Poitras on the top line with Marchand and Pastrnak, and Zacha was with DeBrusk and Geekie for a little bit. And I thought that created a little bit of a spark, and then he went back to the regular lines in the third period with Poitras back between DeBrusk and Geekie. And I thought everyone was playing better at that point. So maybe, final game of a road trip, third game in 4 nights, fourth in 6 days. Like, maybe they just needed some a little bit of a jump start or whatever. But I think it's been good, and I think Poitras and Geekie have been good together. Like, I think Geekie's a good compliment for him on that wing. I've said, and I know other people have said, like, I still have concerns about whether Geekie's going to last long term in a, quote unquote top 6 role, if you want to call it that. Although, minute wise, it might be more like a third line role, anyways. But he does some things that really help Poitras out in terms of his forechecking, his work down low, getting to the net. I think, I remember saying this like maybe after like the first or second game, that Poitras and Geekie were 2 guys I consistently noticed being at the net front for shots from the point. And that has remained true all season so far. Like, you still see both of them taking that message to heart from Montgomery of, okay, get the puck back to the point and then go to the net. And they're both doing it consistently. And I think, that's led to good things for whatever line they've been on, whoever's been on their left. And now you put DeBrusque there, and it's, he brings an element of speed, some more offensive skill, finishing. So, yeah, I've liked that line. Like, it might not be, you might not think of that line getting like the heavy minutes that a second line normally gets, but right now they're just a good line. So I don't really care where you slot them in on the depth chart. They're playing good hockey.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add than Scott there. It would just be redundant. I agree with them, and it hasn't been a huge sample size, but Poitras has just kind of been somebody who's, I don't know, he's just driven every line he's kind of been on so far, even in preseason. But I do like the speed with DeBrusque and Geeky's net from present. So it's been good. Just a little, not enough sample size, I guess, to really assess it long term, obviously, but so far so good. I've just liked Poitras' game. He's elevated players around him every time he's been on a certain line. Obviously, I would say the LA game, was it LA where he was on? No, it was San Jose. The first game with Marchand and Geeky was kind of off a little bit, but besides that, every line he's been on, he's kind of driven offense. So yeah, Bridget, you have an opinion on that yourself?
Well, just that I think it looks better than the combination with Marchand, like you were just kind of alluding to. I think it looked better, both of the games that it was together on this road trip. So, I like it. I like him alongside DeBrusque as well. I think that there's a lot of potential for scoring when you have those two together. So,
I want to check back in on your opening take, because as it pertains to their 6-0 start, and look, I don't want to glance over the elephant in the room, which is last spring. So the asterisk here is that it's the regular season, but over their, and I know there's been turnover, but as an organization, in their last 88 regular season hockey games, the Bruins are 71, 12, and 5. What are your reactions to that initially? Because that's a I know last spring happened, but that is a jarring statistic.
Yeah, it is. And it, especially, we know how good last year's team was. They exceeded expectations, but you looked at that, by a month into the season when McAvoy and Marchand are coming back from injury, like, you looked at that roster and you were like, well, there's no hole. Like, they're getting the best goaltending in the league. The defense is loaded. They're really deep offensively. So you never predict 65 wins, but it was clear that was a really deep team, and on paper, probably the best in the NHL. The fact that they're starting so well this year, even with a softer schedule, which has to be acknowledged, they've still, in my mind, only played one playoff team so far, and that was the Kings, and that still is their most impressive win to me. But to be 6-0-0 and to be winning, like, no matter who you play, a 6-game winning streak in the NHL is impressive. And doing it with a 4-game road trip in the middle, doing it with a back-to-back with travel across multiple time zones, like, that's all still impressive. So it's surprising because we expected a step back this year, and that might still come at this point, but it comes back to something I said on the last podcast, which is just, when you have the foundation of the defense and goaltending that they do, you're going to be in every game and you're going to give yourself a chance to win a lot of games. And that was, as good as they were offensively last year, that was their foundation. Goaltending was the biggest edge they had over the rest of the league throughout the regular season. And through 6 games this year, that's been the case again. So I think it's a testament to the incredible goaltending tandem they put together. It's a testament to the defensive foundation and the personnel on defense that they have, starting under Bruce Cassidy and what he built, but then continuing with Jim Montgomery and some of the tweaks he made. and yeah, obviously the longer term question is going to be, how do you translate that into more playoff success than you had last year? And they and we have a long time to figure that out and talk about it and discuss it and try to answer that question. But for now, it keeps coming back to me, like, when you have this foundation that they have, that's how you win that many games, because it doesn't crumble. Like, other teams have off nights and give up 5 goals, and the Bruins can be playing poorly and still be in a 0-0, 1-1 game because their goaltending just isn't going to crack.
Yeah, so kind of the same thing as last year, barring some like catastrophic injuries to goaltending or McAvoy or on the back end. You're a deep team, because it turns out that Poitras isn't just a rookie that's gonna have to like make do. Like they're gonna have to make do with him. Like no, he's actually legitimately one of the assets and one of the better pieces on the team. It turns out so far. So they're not as deep as last year, but they also don't have as big of holes as they thought they were going to. I think, in my opinion. So yeah, the only injury that the Bruins were dealing with on Tuesday was Lucci was out. I saw Fluto tweet out because he was in Chicago that Lucci went to take the ice for morning skate, but left early, and then obviously wasn't in the lineup for the Tuesday game, still dealing with that foot injury from blocking the shot. Well, not blocking the shot. He accidentally got hit with a Bruin shot. So, yeah, he was the only person that was out. I know Forbert was kind of day to day, but he's okay right now. So, injuries, it's early in the season, but injuries is really the one big worry that would throw things off track. But I was going to pose this question to you guys. So they've obviously already won 6 in a row to start the season. They play Anaheim Thursday to go for their 7th, but could they actually just continue to keep winning? If you look at I'm going to pull up the schedule and we'll go through it. So they play Anaheim and then Detroit and then Florida, the 3 teams to end the month. And then the next game after that is Toronto. Which game do you see this streak ending at? Does this just keep going?
Scott, I'll let you start because I know you said you think you already have the team pegged. So
yeah, well, it's not so much the team, but there does always seem to be something to that old adage of first game home after a road trip is usually tough. I could just see the Ducks stealing one on Thursday. The Bruins are obviously a better team. There's no doubt in my mind about that. So it's not even like, oh, the Ducks are a tough matchup. I could just see the Bruins having a tough night in their first game back. They flew back late Tuesday night. They get in early Wednesday morning. They do have Wednesday off, but that game, that's, sometimes that turnaround to Thursday can be tough. So Bridget's right that, like, if you just look at the schedule, it's like, well, they could keep going. Like, Detroit's off to a good start, but Bruins, I think, should be better. Florida's struggling. Bruins should be better than them. But, like, realistically, I don't see it going forever. I mean, the NHL record is 10, by the way. So, if you get 4 more, you tie the NHL record.
You don't see 82? You're not seeing 82? 82 straight wins to start the season.
It could happen, yeah.
And to end the season.
07 Patriots. Here we go.
Yeah. Well,
but no, but just for the sake of picking a game, I'm gonna pick the sort of the trap game Thursday coming back.
So that it will end at 6.
Yeah.
Okay. Because this conversation started in the office yesterday when I was talking to Arkand, and because he asked me, he was like, "What game do you think they're gonna lose first?" And I said, maybe obviously Florida is something that they're gonna want revenge. So that might be a game they get up for. Like I could see that being a really like high energy game for them, playing the team that knocked them out in the playoffs. And then the other thing is all 4 of the games that I said, the next 4 games for the Bruins are all home games. So like you're playing Toronto, but you're playing them at home. When you're playing Florida, you're playing them at home. So I don't know if that really shifts the scales. I'd be interested to see what the betting odds are for the Toronto game, who they would have as the underdog there. But and would the Bruins, be favored just because it was at home? I think that they could continue to. Let's see. So Thursday would be 7. If they beat Detroit, to be 8. If they win the homestand, like if they take all 4 games in the homestand, they would be at 10 or 11. They'd be at 10, right? No, they'd be at 11. So they'd
be at 10. Yeah.
They'd be at 10. So they tie the NHL record. Don't let me do math. Don't have, I can't even add 4. I can't even.
Well,
It's fine, guys.
I think they're going 82-0, so I think they're going to obliterate the record, as we've mentioned before. But let's just say they don't go 82-0. I think Detroit might be the first loss. Not so much that Detroit's the real deal and that they're going to be a playoff team at the end of the season, though. They're off to a great start. But I do like the way they're playing right now, and I could just see them catching Boston next week.
And so Thursday is more than likely another Ullmark game, right? So against Anaheim. So I feel like that's such a winnable game that they should be able to win it. Like it
is. I mean,
game to win.
Yeah, you once again catch a little bit of a break of the schedule because they could have that letdown I'm talking about and sleepwalk through the first 2 periods and then still win the game. Like that's what they just did Sunday in Anaheim. They snoozed through the first 2 periods and still won. So, yeah, like that absolutely could happen where it's like, oh, they didn't play well, but they still pulled it out. So, yeah, certainly. Like right now, any game seems pretty winnable for them. That Detroit game, I am excited for it though. That's a team off to a really good start. That it's especially offensively has been very exciting. They have some depth. Like they've made some good additions the last couple of years. So DeBrincat has been awesome for them. So that should be a fun game.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see and you want to know what, because I've been working with the midday show. I've been talking to a few of those guys about it. And Fourier was like, does it matter? Like, what does it matter that they won the first 6 games to start the season? It doesn't do anything. It doesn't help you in the playoffs. Like I was disagreeing with him just on the fact that it's historically, a big deal. But no, it doesn't help. Nothing helps in the playoffs besides you playing well in the playoffs. So obviously, it doesn't mean anything in that sense, but neither does anything in other sports that aren't playoffs either, right? Like, all right, well, the Celtics, they could have a great regular season. Same thing. Got to perform in the playoffs. It's not like I'm trying to say that, even though, you can't just let that be in the back of your mind. Like, well, it doesn't matter. Like, are you not watching till the playoffs? Like, I don't know.
No, it's true. That mentality is really annoying. That people have. It's like, well, the regular season doesn't matter. So, talk to me in April. It's like,
also,
okay, it's fine. Then don't watch. Like, what do you like?
Yeah.
Like only one team wins. So are you only going to watch a regular season if you know that they're going to win a Stanley Cup? I mean, then don't watch then. Then be a pink cat and join in April and then get pissed at them when they lose. But if you like watching the sport, then watch it.
And also, let's just 6 wins to start the season, and you're racking up wins at any point in time. You're also setting yourself up for better seeding in the playoffs. So it does affect in a very small way. Like, hey, maybe those 6 wins are what gets them the top seed in the conference, and they don't have to play a harder matchup.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say is I, especially after last year, even though I love history myself, I guess I personally don't really care about the history of a 6-0 start, but it absolutely matters for making the playoffs now, for making the playoffs this year. Of course you want to get off to a good start and be in a position where you're one of those teams who's in and other teams are chasing, rather than, you look at the standings, like some of the teams that are off to slow starts, whether it's Tampa, Florida, Pittsburgh, Carolina, the Islanders, like all these teams who expect to be playoff teams, who are kind of chasing it, who right now are outside the playoff picture. And obviously it's very early and they have a lot of time to get back in it. But, we all know the adage about Thanksgiving, which has been disproven a couple times recently, but you want to be in a playoff spot come Thanksgiving. Like, you don't want to be playing catch up the second half of the year. You don't want to have to go all out, even though that ultimately worked for Florida last year. Obviously that's an example of a team that was playing playoff hockey for like the last month of the regular season and seemed to benefit them. But that said, it's like, if the Penguins just don't lose to the Blue Jackets, then it still all would have been for naught for the Panthers. Like, they needed a ton of help. They need so much to break right just to make the playoffs. You don't want to be in that position. So, yeah, like somewhere down the road, we can maybe have the conversation about, hey, is it like last year? They're running away from the pack and they're not playing meaningful hockey, and like, is that going to hurt them? We are so far away from that right now. Like, they're 1 point ahead of the Red Wings. They're not doing that yet. Like, right now, they're just off to a good start and they're banking points. And that's important because before you have any playoff success, you have to make the playoffs first. So they're putting themselves in a good position to do that.
Bingo.
No,
there you go. Nailed it with the last sentence. Yeah, that you have to make the playoffs, and it looks like we mentioned. I think we all had them as finishing second in the division. They could even finish first now. So like
logistically, you guys are absolutely right, and I agree with you guys, and that's why we understand that. But I feel like what our Candace saying and the mindset that a lot of Fourier. I feel like the mindset that a lot of people have is like they don't care. Like they're under the impression that like they are making the playoffs, like because they're assuming that they're gonna make the playoffs. So their whole thing is I don't care. Is like winning the playoffs. That's all I care about. And it's like then don't watch then. You know what I mean? But it's interesting, Scott. Though the two anomalies as far as the Thanksgiving threshold, I feel like that weren't in the playoff picture and that made the playoff picture. I feel like both of those teams actually were the ones to end the Bruins season, with St. Louis in 19 and Florida last year. So I don't know, but yeah, the whole. I understand that if you don't win in the playoffs, like obviously, like if you're a regular season darling, that's annoying. I get it. I get everybody's frustration for sure. But the whole talk to me in April, it's like, well, we got 6 months of watching hockey, so it's like just then don't watch, But if you don't watch and end up winning, you'll feel like a real asshole for not watching hockey. But again, we've talked about it before. Only one team can win a Stanley Cup, so there's 30. How many teams are there now? 32. There's going to be 31 fan bases that are disappointed at one point in time this year, and like chances are you're one of them. So know that going into it. Just enjoy watching the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like it's a sign of how spoiled Boston fans have gotten, where it's like it's just for all four teams, it's just always championship or bust, and it's like no one can enjoy anything else. And it's like maybe we should all like take a step back and appreciate that our teams have won so many titles in the last 25 years that like we can have that mindset. But it does kind of make the whole sports fan experience like almost more miserable in a way, because it's like, I don't know, if you like sports, it's like you've got to like watching all year if the product's entertaining. I mean, look, I'll be the first person to complain about watching the Patriots when Mac Jones is throwing 3 picks and they're losing 34-0. Like that's not fun to watch. I get that. But if your team's winning and they're competitive every night, like how can you not enjoy watching Matt Poitras right now? Like that's a really fun thing to watch as a fan. So look, everyone can have their own opinion. If there's people who don't want to pay attention or care until April, then then so be it. But I know we and lots of Bruins fans will enjoy watching this team as long as they're winning and they're competitive and there's something, worth being excited about. Like, you don't have to, you don't have to preface everything with like, well, it doesn't matter until April. And it's like, yeah, like, of course we all inherently understand that to an extent, but I don't know, you can enjoy watching games before then.
Yeah, it's been much more enjoyable than watching the Patriots, I will say.
And the Red Sox.
And oh God, I blacked that out. That entire season as soon as it ended, I was like,
Bridget was working every game. She's just like, the what now?
Yeah, I just like deleted that from my mind, I think.
To the point about being spoiled though, it's like if you rewind the clocks to 2005, 6, 7, those were some down years for the Bruins post lockout. Now you also look at the rest of the landscape, right? Like so in 2004, the Patriots won the Super Bowl, Red Sox won the World Series. 2005, did the Patriots go back to back? No, that was the year before. But the Celtics won the title in 07. The Red Sox won the title in 07. So that 3 to 4 year stretch for the Bruins were at least calendar years. It was an NHL lockout, so out of sight, out of mind. And then they came back, and they struggled for a couple of seasons. So those years when the Bruins were down, everybody else was up, right? But I will say, like, think back to those years. It's like, you're watching a blue line with, Jason York, Milan Jurčina, Andrew Alberts. I mean, like, I don't even know if Brian Leach for like a cup of coffee before Chara came in. Like, the Garden was like 20% full. The product wasn't great, but you still watched. But my point is, like, this whole notion of just like, talk to me in April, it's just, it's just annoying.
So I obviously chimed in. I couldn't let that one.
Yeah. Well, it's also annoying because it's like the narrative makes like the people who watch, like, it's like condescending towards them. Like, why are you watching?
Yes,
it doesn't matter.
That is how I feel most of the time when I'm in the office.
Why do we do anything then? Like does anything really have a purpose? Are we just wandering through life on this planet with like nothing accomplished? I mean, who cares? Like, just be entertained.
Well, it's the same people that will, they'll read articles about if Mac Jones had his eggs over easy or over medium. So it's like, all right, that's fine. Go sniff his jock for 5 months when a team's 3-10. But
well, what they get when they have me as their producer is all of my unsolicited hockey opinions, and yeah. I'm sitting there and I'm like, yep, you're hearing what I have to say about this until someone turns my mic off.
All right, Scott, talk to us about how good the goalies are. Let's jump back to your opening take.
Well, I feel like
we trading them or both of them, none of them. What are we doing here?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's obviously like the next conversation that's going to come, or it is already here. I feel like we do Bruins Thursday every week on WEI, and obviously, one of the guests is Mike Milbury on the Greg Hill show. I feel like every week Wiggy's going to ask him, should they be trading a goalie? Like, this has been Wiggy's thing since last year, like since early last season. I guess to his credit, he's been consistent on it, but yeah, no, it's like, sure, at some point you can't keep both of them forever because if Jeremy Swayman keeps playing like this, he's going to get another pay raise next summer. And yeah, at some point you price yourself out of being able to have 2 elite goalies. I still think, hey, if someone wants to blow you away with a trade-off for one of them, cool, take it. Like, if you can get a top center or wing or whatever, multiple first-round picks, sure, be my guest. But until that happens, like, you're winning games because of your goaltending, and they are both clearly better with each other, alternating time, not having to ride one of them for 8 or 10 straight starts, or overwork them or whatever. And like, yeah, there are more complicated discussions coming down the line about, do you move on from one of them at some point? what do you do when you get to the playoffs this year? That if they keep this rotation going, so far it's been a strict one on, one off. Like they've just alternated 6 games. If that continues for like the vast majority of the season, we're gonna have that same conversation about should they keep the rotation going in the playoffs, or do they try to ride the hot hand again, or whatever. Like that'll absolutely be a conversation to have. But again, for now, the most important thing early in the season is get off to a good start, win games, bank points, put yourself in position to make the playoffs first and foremost. And right now they have statistically the 2 best goalies in the NHL. Why would you not rotate them? Why would you not ride that to as many wins and points as you can while everything else gets figured out? Because it certainly hasn't been perfect through 6 games. Jim Montgomery has talked about, he wants more sustained 5-on-5 offense, possession, chances, cycling. We know the schedule's going to get tougher. Like, just take the wins, just ride that strength. It's not any sort of negative. So whatever tough decisions are down the line are, for now, they're down the line. Like right now, you have the best goaltending in the NHL, and that's going to get you in a pretty good position throughout this regular season.
Are you on one of the shows Thursday?
I don't think so. Not this week.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just with the midday show in general. So, like I said, they're going to be getting my unsolicited Bruins Thursday takes at some point tomorrow. But I feel like the goal, like we don't even have to talk much more than what your opening statement was, at the very beginning of the podcast, because you gave us all the stats, and like it just so they kind of don't come up in our podcast a lot because they just do their job and they make everything, like we pick apart other parts of the game, and we're never sitting around like, oh, Allmark should have done this, or it just doesn't even get discussed a lot with us. So I actually don't really have any more thoughts on it at this point, but I did want to ask you guys about the like quote unquote NHL Red Zone, if you guys watched it at all, what you thought of it, how that went.
Okay, so I did not, and and I don't think anybody else did, because I think people have lives. But at the same time, like, how are you supposed to watch 16 games in a day? Are you referring to to ESPN's thing? So
yeah, it was on ESPN too, I think, starting at.
They bill it like, oh, everyth's staggered, so you can watch all. It's like, oh, well, I mean, if you're paying attention to it, it doesn't work that way. Like if you're paying attention to a game, you're not watching the other one. They're all still so close to each other. I mean, I'll give them credit for trying to be original, I suppose, but for me, the whole schedule has been ass backwards. I feel like this year, it's been like 30 teams playing on a given night, and then 2 or 4 or like 1 game like league wide, and it's like, why can't we just like spread it out? Like, why can't there be like 5 to 8 games every night? So I mean, I can't say I watched it. I don't know if you guys did. I know that you guys were focused on the Bruins at 8:30, but
yeah, after they finished, I threw it on just to see what it was about. Also like threw it on in intermissions at different points, but
wait, when you call it a red zone, are you saying that? Because I like, hand up, I didn't watch the
technically
product.
it was called like Frozen Frenzy or something like that.
Well, right. Yeah. So on it started on ESPN Plus, but on ESPN2 from 8 o'clock on, they did do like whip around style coverage with Butcher Gross and Kevin Weeks, where they were moving in and out of different games. Like they would go in on, if a team had a power play, they'd go to that game. If there's a goal scored, they would flip over to it and show you it like seconds after it was scored. So that I liked. Like I was watching that before the Bruins game, and I thought that was really cool. They did a good job with it, and it reminded me of like, I don't know if they still do it because it's been a long time since I've watched NHL Network regularly, but NHL Network used to have like NHL on the fly, like certain nights of games, and they would kind of do something like this, but it wasn't, they didn't focus as much on game situations. It was more like they would just kind of drop into a game for a few minutes and then they'd pull out and like switch over to another game. This was like, it was more targeted like NFL Red Zone, which if people aren't familiar with the concept, is like if a team gets down inside the 20-yard line into scoring position, NFL Red Zone takes you to that game. You see every play, you see every score. And this was the same idea. Like they showed you every goal. Obviously, you can't have that like set up the same way the NFL does. There's no, red zone other than like the power plays, which they did show. But when there was a goal, they'd bring it to you like seconds later. So that was pretty cool. And I'd like to see that on some sort of regular basis. I also think the whole staggered starts thing, it doesn't have to be 16 games at 16 different start times. But I do think in general, like the NHL would benefit from more staggered starts because there are so many nights where it's like 8 games start at 7:00 and then they're all in intermission at the same time. And it's like, like if the Bruins aren't playing, like I'm watching ESPN Plus, it's like I want to flip over to another game. It's like, oh, that one's also an intermission. Oh, this one's also an intermission. Yeah. Like that is annoying.
So that I agree with. And so first of all, I want to rescind my original take because I didn't even know I didn't watch it, so I didn't realize it was a red zone type thing. So I apologize for that, but I will say, like, to your point, Scott, like any NFL red zone is red zone for a reason because you can, first of all, the pace of play in football is slower. So as a consumer, like to do that style with the NHL, it's kind of like it just like I feel like it's like anxious, like because there's a lack of context. You're kind of all over the map. But I will give them points for creativity, I suppose. But I did not watch that product, so I won't have an opinion on that. But just in general, yes, Scott, I agree with you on the staggered schedules. That's why I'm saying like the 16 games is overwhelming, straight up. That's a lot with staggered schedules. Every 8 minutes apart, 15 minutes apart. But in general, that's why I'm saying like the schedule has been annoying to me. It's like you'll have 10 games or 12 games one night and then either none or one the next night. And yeah, like just every night in the NHL, there should be like 7 to 12 games, 7 to 10 games every night, whatever. And to your point, yeah, in that situation, the game should be, 7, 7:30 or 8 or 8:30 or 9 and like half-hour integrals depending on the time zone, because at least then it's an appropriate amount of games where the staggering is useful. If you have 16 games and it's staggered, that's way too overwhelming to watch. But if you have like 5 games that are staggered so that they're not all intermission at the same time, like you said, Scott, like that's how they should do it. To have nights in the league where you have 32 teams, we have one game going on, it's like, it's just be more consistent is all.
Yeah. I was also thinking like, this was also, I get from ESPN's perspective why they wanted this on Tuesday night, but like it was also kind of a tough spot on the sports calendar because Tuesday was also opening night of the NBA season with the Denver Nuggets raising their banner, and it was Game 7 of the NLCS, which like at least neither of those are the NFL. They're not that huge juggernaut, but those are still two like pretty big nights with other sports going on. I was thinking like if they did something like this in February, like on a Saturday after, like football season's done, you don't have to worry about that on weekends. Like that would be pretty cool if you did a whole like started at 12:30 or 1:00 and just have it all day. I'm just thinking like selfishly, like you get like a miserable February day. I don't know, maybe we're snowed in or something. Like I will absolutely sit there and watch 12 straight hours of hockey. That'd be fantastic.
Back when I used to live in North Carolina and had like a whole one friend, when I first moved there and I hadn't met anyone yet, if that was available to me, that's what I would have done the whole day. I was watching every Bruins game, every Penguins game, every Wild game, and then whenever those teams weren't on, whatever other game was available. Like I just mostly just watched hockey when I was there, is what I'm trying to say. I did the same thing every day the entire time I was there. I woke up, worked out at 9 a.m., came back, showered, ate, took a nap, went to work at like 5, and then came back and watched hockey. And then if I didn't have work that day, it was more hockey.
Scott, any response to that? Do you get up every day at 9 a.m. and work out?
No workout. No, my workout is I just drink a ton of coffee.
Yeah, it's not the same thing, Scott.
The coffee marathon.
And let's just say I was very healthy when I lived there, and I watched a whole lot of hockey. So I was doing a lot.
I've got the hockey part down.
You got the hockey part, yeah.
A couple of players I wanted to mention from last night's game as well. Briefly, I just wanted to shout out JVR again, just because on Frederick's goal, I just his speed was evident there again. Just like you talk about him not slowing down necessarily, and may have lost a step, maybe not, right? Depending on if you feel like it's he that's lost a step or the league's gotten faster, but he has a very long, powerful stride, and showed some finesse and power skating to set up Frederick's goal. But mainly,
just a boss move, chucking the stick away on that rush.
Oh,
he got like a little bit of a hook. The stick gets into his midsection, and he just grabs it and chucks it into the boards.
Yep. But the other player I wanted to mention was Pavel Zacha, because he gets his first goal of the year on a shot from tipping in a shot from Shattenkirk, which Scott, you mentioned online that he's just really good at finding sticks in front. But I think Zacha's played well this year. I don't think the points dictate how he's been playing, but still, when you're a designated number one center on a team, 2 points in 6 games isn't ideal, but he has been playing well, and hopefully it's a situation where the points are going to start to follow him now.
Yeah, with the line combination they have now, of course, like you're expecting that Marchand, Zacha, Pastrnak line to have pretty high-powered offense, so Zacha will be part of those scoring chances. With that line having threats on both sides of him. So yeah, I think that it was just a matter of time for him to score his first, and obviously also getting so much time on the power play on the top unit in the bumper a lot. You see him tip in a lot more shots throughout the season. So
yeah, and it's like this isn't meant to be a criticism of Charlie Coyle, but it's like that's the difference between being Charlie Coyle and being a legitimate top center. Because I think Charlie Coyle plays good hockey the vast majority of nights that he's out there. But if you're going to be a top 2 center, you're going to have to put up more than 40, 45 points. And, with Zacha, he had 58 last year, so we already know he can do that. But yeah, he has been playing good hockey all season. I think his 2-way game has been there. But he came into Tuesday night with 1 assist on the season, no goals. So at some point, the points have to come. And I think they will for him, especially if he remains between Marchand and Pastrnak. But yeah, like there would have eventually gotten a point where it's like, okay, he's playing well. The details are there, but you can't have 5 points through the first 20 games of the season. You got to pick up the pace at some point. So yeah, that was good to see. I feel like I had another point to make, and now I totally forgot it. So that's it.
Yeah, I'm waiting to get interrupted at some point. How have I not gotten interrupted by one of my pets by this point? It's like, where are they? I don't know. They usually have already made an appearance at this point, but everybody's been quiet and left me alone.
They don't have anything to disagree with. Our takes have been so good today that they're just sitting there and they're like, you know what? They nailed it. I don't have to chime in.
Yeah. Thank you guys for leaving me alone today. I do have one final thought, and it has to do with the Danton Heinen situation. So 6 games into the season, still don't know what's going on with them keeping him around but not having him signed yet. But it popped into my mind yesterday when Lucci got hurt or didn't play, and we know he's dealing with an injury. Like, are they maybe closer to signing him if Lucci has to miss time, and maybe they're able to I don't know what the Bruins haven't updated his injury status. I don't believe, Scott. As of Wednesday morning, he's not on IR or anything like that. But that might maybe kickstart Heinen signing, because they're going to need another forward. Because as of right now, Brown is who they plugged into the lineup, but they don't have an extra forward if Lucic is going to be out for a few more games. So seems like a good time to sign.
And now add Jacob Lauko, potentially missing a couple games too, which we haven't even touched on, but obviously a very scary situation with him, where he took a skate to the face and ran right off the ice down the tunnel and lost quite a bit of blood, as you could see if you were watching the game. Jim Montgomery did provide an update after, said he's okay. Like, it didn't get his eye. It was off to the corner of his eye, which is obviously very close, very scary, but just a situation where he needed stitches and should be okay. But, we'll see if he plays the next game, or if he needs a game or two to recover, to get to a point where, just the discomfort of it is gone. So we don't know exactly. I would probably at least expect that he's going to be in a bubble. You don't want any more contact with an area that just got, I'm assuming, quite a few stitches. So, that could also factor in. Like, if they need, if they're down to 11 forwards for this upcoming homestand, like, either it's signing Heinen or you're calling someone up. So,
but if you're Heinen at that point, and say someone else gets called up, like, you're probably sitting there wondering, like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
It
is a weird situation. I mean, I've said before, like, the Bruins might not want to make the final call until they make the final decision on Poitras and they know exactly what their roster looks like moving forward.
They should know by now. Like, they know
but
that
their hand might be forced before then.
Yeah, but they also know the answer to that question too. Like, they know they can't send him down. So, I mean, I feel like they should have already made that decision after Poitras' 3 goals that he's sticking around past 9 games. So I don't know. I think it seems like we're getting to the point where it might be a necessity to sign him now. I also feel like I wouldn't want to be strung along as long as they already have with Heinen. So maybe we'll see him play soon.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm him, I don't want to stick around until December to find out if I have a spot. You kind of want to know sooner than later. Like, am I going to play overseas, or in Europe somewhere? Am I going to play,
or even in the AHL to get paid? Like, he's not getting paid, is he? Like, I have no idea how this works. How does he get paid at all? Just practicing? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure either. Like, obviously he's not getting an NHL salary, so I don't know if they get something on.
I think he could, though.
Probably like a stipulation that you have, like, people on a PTO have to get paid a certain amount. I don't know.
I think he could get an NHL salary, at least league minimum, from somebody else outside of Boston. So if I'm him, like, the fit's great. Some of the guys in the room, the coach, he coached you in college, the area, you played here for 3 or 4 years, but it's like, all right, you got to start being selfish at some point. And so we'll see. Any other final takeaways from you guys? Final thoughts before we wrap up?
I don't think so.
No, I think I'm good.
All right. So next couple of games, Bruins have Anaheim, and then finally they play their first Eastern Conference opponent of the season, which is pretty crazy that you go through the first month of the season not playing anybody from your conference. I've never heard that before. Now, technically, it's not going to happen because they will play a team from their conference this month, but just by the skin of their teeth, they get
the last day.
Yeah. And do you think the Bruins are the only Eastern Conference team to play like only Western teams so far? I don't know.
I haven't looked, but I would guess that feels like a pretty safe guess. But
So I guess
especially through 8 games or whatever it is.
It's been an interesting schedule. Obviously, we've said it's not the toughest schedule, but we haven't seen them play against anybody from the conference, which is the meat of their season. So, but anyway, Anaheim, Detroit, next 2 games, and thank you all for listening, and we'll talk to you very soon. Hey guys, thanks for watching the Skate Podcast. If you want to see more of our videos, visit our playlist.
Not in front of a screen? You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Don't forget to follow us on social media. And if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and